Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and this is the first video that I am making since I just returned from visiting family. So I'm a little out of practice from making a video, and we're going to start off with the vintage collection for my first video back. And obviously there's quite a bit of news for the vintage collection while I was away. I'm sure that you guys have heard through all the other big channels that cover the vintage collection. Hasbro came out with their latest Haslab at SDCC, and I just wanted to discuss that, and then also, of course, go through recent sales on eBay. Thanks for your patience while I've been away. I hope you enjoyed the content that I made while I was out of town. So, obviously, the big news is the Haslab is now underway for those that want to back it. We've got the new Republic Gunship. The price is $450. It comes with one or two clone troopers. I thought it was two. And the tiers are 10, 12, and 14K for the Geonosis Jedi from Attack of the Clones. So very cool tier unlocks, if you ask me. I thought those were really cool. And here is a video that, or excuse me, a photo that my buddy Gary Wallace sent me. He attended SDCC since he lives locally or very close to it. And so here was a cool photo that he showed me. This was the unveiling of the Republic Gunship. And then it also had the card backs for the 3 Jedi there based on the unlocks. And it's a pretty impressive looking item, if you ask me. I thought it was a very, very cool looking item. Obviously, there are some panels that come off and all that, and the size difference is pretty substantial versus the original issue Republic Gunship. And you can see here, this was a photo that I found in one of the Facebook groups. Obviously, it's got the watermark for rebelscum.com, so it could have been, stolen from that. But you can see the size difference and the detail difference on the gunship. The opening is substantially larger for where the troops get in and out, and the wingspan is larger. The detail in terms of the paint applications is better. It's a very, very nice item. Now, the interesting thing is that I've seen, I just kind of peeked through the comments on some of the Facebook groups, and it seems like the consensus is that people are not that excited about it. But yeah, I guess from my perspective, this was an item that I thought should have been re-released anyway. Given the extreme price point for the first issue that you find on eBay. Obviously, we see these sell all the time, mint and seal box, for anywhere from $450 to about $600, sometimes even above $600. So I guess from my perspective, the asking price is pretty reasonable, if you ask me. And there are a lot of people that, I'm only looking at it from the U.S. perspective. Given the currency conversion, that's something that has been mentioned in the Facebook comments in the different groups, is that, if you're in the UK or Australia or where else, that maybe the currency conversion is not that attractive. But to get 2 clone troopers and the gunship that's larger and much more detailed with really cool apps to it, and then obviously the chances to get the tier unlocks to get 3 more carded figures out of it. I'm not saying that that's a definite, because it probably isn't, to be honest with you, just based on what we're going to go through for a Instagram account that I really like to follow for Haslab. So we'll get to that in a second. But at a minimum, you would think that the Clone Troopers mint on card would go for $50 to $80 in the secondary market, right? That seems to be the going rate for a lot of the reissue, a lot of the Haslab card backs, like for the Ghost, Era Syndulla, Ezra Bridger, Zeb Aurelius, Kanan Jarrus. Those 4 seem to be going for $80 to $100 thereabouts. You got the Razor Crest pack-ins of the Off-World Jawa Elder and Grogu with the Chrome Prom. Those are going together now for about $80. You would think that the Clone Troopers minimum, or the Clone Pilots minimum, would go for in the ballpark of $50 to $80. So that's $160 right there, right? Or let's say $150 to keep round numbers. That means that you're getting the gunship for about $300. Now, that's before any transaction fees that Haslab might charge, shipping or taxes or any of that stuff, okay? I'm just going on the base price of $450. But to me, that feels like a really good value for an improved gunship. And the consensus, again, is that, just looking at the comments, is that people are not that excited about it and they're not going to back it. So for whatever that's worth, it's easy for me to say that, right? Because I don't have the original gunship and I don't collect the vintage collection, really. But I think for, the value proposition seems like it to me is there. That's my personal opinion, but I'm on the outside looking in, obviously. And so here is, all the panels and everything. And this is the website for the Hasbro or the Haslab backing. And so there's 42 days left as of the making of this video. Lots of cool panels and things like that. The two bubbles on the side. It does come with a display stand as well. There's just lots of cool just cool parts to this, to this Haslab project, in my opinion. A lot of people said they wished it had been the Sandcrawler, and I would say that if it had been the Sandcrawler, a really oversized Sandcrawler relative to the OTC or some of the other versions that have been released, Trilogy Collection or whatever it was, if they had made a super large scale version of the Sandcrawler for even $600, I would think that would have backed really quickly. This one is a little bit more iffy. And so as of the making of this video on July 28th, it's got the unlocks for the Tier 1. You got Coleman Trevor. I'm certainly gonna mangle these names, but Tier 2 is Sais Tin or Tin. And then you've got the Tier 3, which is Agin Kolar. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the names, but the backers so far are 2144 as of this video. Now, one of my favorite accounts on Instagram to follow for anytime there's a Haslab project is Riv's Junctionite. So, I want to give credit where credit is due, but this account is, if you follow my channel or have for a while for past Haslab projects, this particular account on Instagram does a really great job of showing the data and culling the data and spinning the data in all kinds of different ways. And you know me, I love my data. But he did come out with his first post for the gunship. And, make sure to go give him a follow on Instagram, Riv's Junction. I don't know the person. I just always like their content anytime there's a new Haslab project. So he showed the day one number of backers for some of the recent Haslabs. So obviously the crest, it's pretty crazy that the Razor Crest, after just day one, the percent of needed backers was like 90-some%. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers here. I think he should have probably added some percentages there. But, I'm going to ballpark it, all right? So the crest was, after just day one, that's incredible that it had, let's call it 85 to 90%. The Ghost, as of day one, was at like 75%. The Cantina was at around 40%. Even the Black Series Rancor, which did not fund, was higher than where the gunship is. The gunship was at about 21% on day one. And the Riva Black Series lightsaber, which was definitely a dog and did not fund. The two in red obviously did not fund. The interesting one to me was the barge, the Katana sail barge. After day one, it was at a really low number. Let's call that 12% or so. And obviously that did fund. So there is a precedent for low day one backers. It's still getting funded. But the barge had a big push right at the very end. I think that the gunship is going to probably mimic the last day number of backers closer to the Cantina Ghost and Crest, Razor Crest. Even the Razor Crest had a big push at the end, but it probably more closely mimics the Ghost and the Cantina would be my guess. And he had some other commentary in here when he posted this Instagram account, so you can go follow it yourself. I should have printed that out and included this, but he seems to think that it is not going to fund, and it's going to finish somewhere between the Rancor and the Saber and the Reba Black Series lightsaber, which both did not fund. And his personal opinion is, at least as of day one, that it's not going to fund. So hopefully he's wrong, because I do think it's a really impressive item. But who knows? We'll see what happens. And obviously I'll include more of his posts. I think he usually posts something once a week, and he likes to spin the data in different ways and include some commentary. But make sure to go follow them on Instagram if you're on Instagram. All right, so let's talk about some recent sales on eBay, and we're going to start off with a few Haslab items. And again, I'm not saying that these carded figures that you see in the, in that current Haslab actually unlock. And I'm also not saying that they have the resale price that some of the earlier Haslabs do. But at least for Yak Face, the Yak Face continues to still sell for big money at $250. This one did sell at $250. So, do these eventually sell in that price point versus more recent sales points for the Ghost pack-ins or the Razor Crest pack-ins? I don't know. But these do have some really awesome face sculpts, and they are Jedi, and they're very desirable Jedi that people want to have. So who knows? Maybe they follow more closely with this, because obviously Yak Face was also reissued as Salt Marae on a Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary card. So it's not like this is the only way to get Yak Face. Whereas these, I think, they could potentially decide if it doesn't go to the unlock tiers of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, if they don't make it that far, but they actually do unlock the gunship. Maybe these three appear as, a 3-pack or something like that, like a Hasbro Pulse or Amazon exclusive 3-pack. So that's another possibility. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out, is that, hey, at least for the Katana pack-in, even all this time later, this still sells for $250. Now, I wanted to also show you the Ghost and where this is selling. Now, this there's a lot of caveats with this sales price here, because this particular seller had 0 feedback, so you're taking a little risk there that it's a legit item, even though he does show the item in hand. It's also no returns, as you can see there in the title, and it has a puncture in the box. So it's no returns, and it also has shipping of $175. So let's call that about $380 all in for a factory sealed Ghost with all tiers. Again, that's a 0 feedback seller. And then you had another one that sold for $600 free shipping. So $375 for a 0 feedback seller versus this seller, which had 15 or almost 1,600 transactions with 9,700 positive feedback for $600. But that's a pretty wide range. But this is kind of the very low end of the price for the Haslab Ghost. Next up, some single carded figures. We had an unpunched Sand Trooper on VC14. This one, VC114, is that right? Yeah, that is, because the later issue, VC112, was the Dirty Apps Sand Trooper. But that one did sell for $80 from Power Droid. The only other sale from Power Droid, this is at the upper end of the scale for Bastilla Shan, but this was an unpunched character debut card. Obviously the first issue, or the Boba Fett prototype sticker on there. $130 on that one, but that's again at the high end of the range for Bastilla Shan. We had another VC115 Emperor's Wrath Darth Vader. This was a punched example that sold in an auction for $89 after shipping. That's a pretty low number there, but it looked pretty clean overall. Just was punched. Actually, I take it back. It had some edge wear at the bottom of the card there on the back. So, that's kind of a low number, though, relative to where this one has been selling. Another factory error miscard sold. This one sold for $360. This is a Luke Skywalker Hoth card back with the Endor Han inside the blister. And this is another fairly common, reissue figure that has, a very common miscard that we've seen in the past. But you can tell that it's legit. It's a combination that we have seen before, but a very fair price, I feel like, at $360, ungraded. Not perfect. It had some edge wear to the card, but again, you're getting a factory error miscard at the bottom of the range, I would argue. And then some graded items before I talk about a few customs from that seller in Sri Lanka, which did reach out to me, and I'll cover that in a second. But uncirculated 9.0 Darth Maul offer, Anakin from Phantom Menace. This is obviously from 2012, unpunched US card, uncirculated 9.0, 125 plus shipping on that one. We had the Bespin Security Guard that sold for $108. That one was an AFA 9.0. So that's pretty cool. Isdam Edian is the Bespin Security Guard. We had the Clone Commander Rex from the Bad Batch 4-pack. This was an AFA 9.0 Clone Commander Rex. And that one sold for $170. Big number on that one. We had the Jabba's Goon. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. Uncirculated 9.0. And again, that was from the Jabba's Goon 3-pack or 4-pack, whatever it was. $170 on that one. Big number there. We had an IG-11 from The Mandalorian, uncirculated 9.0. That one sold for $95. Very reasonable price there. The AT-ST driver, which was a Walmart exclusive and also did have the Hong Kong distribution sticker. You can see that there on the AFA label. That's pretty cool. Uncirculated 9.0, that one sold for $105. They usually only include Hong Kong distribution sticker on the AFA label if there are examples that come with it or without it. So in this case, this one had the Hong Kong distribution sticker on the back, and it was a gold level uncirculated 9.0, which is tough to get for a Walmart exclusive, just given that it was from a factory sealed case. So that was a pretty good deal at $105 there. Now, this seller, 3D Stuff LK over in Sri Lanka, did reach out and say thank you for featuring some of their items in my videos. They are very professional. They are on Instagram. I think their name is exactly the same as their eBay account name, 3D Stuff LK. So you can check them out on Instagram as well. But they did send me a private message saying thank you for featuring their items. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not paid by them or anything like that. I just think they're really cool stuff. So this was a cool item. This was the Rancor's layer pit, the main wall with the door. This is for the 3 3/4 inch scale. That is $90. There's 2 still available. 10 have sold. They also have some really cool Tatooine items for those of you that are getting the Haslab Cantina, and you can kind of build it out to have like a really cool diorama. So this was a very cool looking 3D 3D tower for Tatooine, and it includes some extra bits, and it does come painted as well. Those are $153. He's got 2 available. 1 has sold. This is probably the coolest one. This is a custom Tatooine house, and this seller has 2 still available. They are $220 each, and they come painted. Look how cool this is. This is a very cool looking item, but just really cool items to kind of build out your Tatooine diorama. But I just thought those were very, very impressive items. And those are from the seller from in Sri Lanka, and I've also heard from a number of you that bought from this seller and been very happy. So I did want to show some of their customs for those of you that are into building dioramas. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video for the vintage collection. It's good to be back with you guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.